Similar to an online address book, contacts in Gmail give you the ability to easily access people you want to reach. So there are a couple ways to get to contacts. First, if I come up to the top right and look at my apps grid here, you notice that if I go down to the second section, I can find contacts here. I can also come to the left-hand side of my screen and click on the down arrow right next to mail. That gets me to contacts. Now these are the contacts that I have in my book right now. Notice that I have several categories over here that I can look at. I have my Google Plus circles, I have my contacts, I have these individuals that I've contacted most, as well as a directory. So let's talk about each one of those separately and see how we can make it all work together. So the first part, let's talk about most contacted. So when it says most contacted, what contacts does is it really monitors the individuals that you send to. And in fact, anytime you send a reply from an email, it puts that individual into your other contacts or most contacted category. Now, for me, I like to store all of my folks up into my contacts. So all I have to do is simply click on each one of these. And as I do that, you notice that this add to my contacts shows up. And as I do that, I click on that, it's going to add those now to my contacts. I can also star individual ones. So if I'm always contacting Dean, I can star Dean and notice that he shows up in star. So it's a way for me, again, to organize all of my contacts into different categories or subcategories. For those of you that are in Google Apps domains, you also will see down here something called a directory. Now this directory links to your admin console where you will see all of your users. So this is a great way for those of you inside of an apps domain to go in and add the different individuals within your organization to your contacts. So I'm going to come on down in here and add all these students in here, and notice I can click to add to my contacts. That just makes it easier for those, or for me, to access these within my contacts without having to go down and open the directory. Let's talk about groups, because groups really allow you to make the process of sending information out to others very efficient. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click on my contacts and I'm going to find these students, and I'm just going to pretend that these folks are all part of the same class. Notice that I have the ability, I'm going to take and uncheck this here. Once I check more than one individual, you see how this group icon shows up? And it's allowing me then to say, okay, let's make this a group. So I'm going to call this Jeff's class. And it's going to say create new. And once I've done that, I've now got Jeff's class. And again, notice over under my contacts, it's telling me I have 6 individuals. Now let's just pretend that I'm going to uncheck all these, click on this to uncheck them, that I should have put myself into that class. And so if I click on that, again, this group message shows up. It says, which one do you want to be part of? And I'm going to click on that and apply that. And so now I've just thrown myself into Jeff's class. So that basically allows me to then email those individuals as a group. And I'll show you how we do that a little bit later. Let me show you how to create a new contact. So you notice up here I've got my red button here, and if I click on this, it's going to allow me to create a new contact. For example, I might just put in here Jeff Spatial Sci, because that's another one of my email, and we're going to put company Spatial Sci, and I can add that to my contacts. You notice it's already doing that. I can star that just in case, and I'm going to just type in an email. So just really I'm manually putting in this information that I want. Now if I put in a phone number, I can also add a note. This is Jeff's other Jeff's other company, and I'm not having a very good time spelling it. So Jeff's other company. Now if I click on, if I close this, I can change that. Now here's another piece in here that I want to show you though. I can actually add a different field in here. So for example, I might want to say custom in here, customize this, and I might call this work address. And I click on that and I say POB Box 357 and go from there. So adding contacts is really kind of a cool way of, again, organizing all these things. So think about this as a teacher let's say at the beginning of the year you collect everybody's email from the parents. You send out a form, you send out some type of paper document, they come back. You have to enter this in one time, but if you add all your parents to your contact list, you could then create a group of your parents and then email them out information as necessary. Now this is where I think it gets cool, because we can now go back to Gmail. So I'm going to come back to Mail here and close this out of there, hit compose, and this time remember our Jeff's class. Remember that we created that group called Jeff's class. Now the first thing it's going to do is going to look for that. The minute I put an apostrophe in, notice that it says, oh yeah, I know that group. And so now all I have to do is click on that group, and it puts every single address that's part of that group into my email message. And again, we can make this a test document. Click down here into test, and what that's going to do, it's going to send that off to everybody in that group. So groups become incredibly powerful. Think about this. If you have your students have Gmail addresses, you can take and you can set those groups up one time, first time of the year, and then once you do that, you can email those groups or that student group every single time. You can do it with colleagues, you could do it with parents as well. So you create one Gmail message and you send it out to the group. The other cool thing about groups that we'll find out about later is that not only does it work in Gmail, but it also works in Google Drive and Google Docs. And so those groups will carry over throughout most of the other Google tools. So I highly recommend you work on creating groups with your students or your colleagues, your staff, create different organizations to allow you to then share information much more efficiently than having to enter each individual at one time.